Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Facebook Live with GAE. I am Lisa Morgan, a kindergarten teacher and the current president of GAE.
I'm Sharon Doe. I'm a high school physics and physical science teacher in Augusta, Georgia, and I'm the current vice president for the Georgia Association of Educators.
And I'm Carly Shaw. I am a 6th grade English language arts teacher in Houston County, and I'm the current secretary treasurer of the Georgia Association of Educators.
And I'm Joe Fleming, government relations for GAE.
And our special guest this evening is Senator Jen Jordan. She has been our legislator of the year, and she has been our GAE Friend of Public Education recently. And she is our candidate who is endorsed for the position of Attorney General. Welcome, Senator Jordan. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us why you're running to be Attorney General.
Yeah, so my name is Jen Jordan. I am a state senator, and I represent large parts of Fulton County and Cobb County. And just to give people a sense of it, it's where Truist Park is, where the Braves play, but also where the governor's mansion is. And so it's a fairly affluent Senate district, but I am actually from probably one of the poorest Senate districts. I'm originally from Dodge County. I grew up in Eastman, and my mother was a hairdresser and had a beauty shop. And so every day after school, that's where I went, and I would do whatever she needed me to do. But the biggest takeaway from all those years and all those afternoons was really listening to the women who came to that beauty shop every day and every week, and listening to everything that kind of makes up a life, right? The good and the bad, the husband leaving you, losing a job, getting a job, cancer diagnosis, not being able to pay the bills, a child with addiction issues, all of those things. And what I came away with was that it didn't matter really who you were or how important you may seem in a community, that bad things can happen to you. And when bad things happen, you really do need someone who's going to advocate for you or advocate with you, right? And so for me, that really was my teachers in Eastman, Dodge County. My mama worked a lot. She had 2 little kids to take care of, and she was doing it all on her own. And so my teachers really did step up and were my extended family, and particularly in high school, really saw something in me that I never saw in myself. We were not a college going family. I like to say that just, we graduated high school and then we got jobs. I think there was a long line of hairdressers too. My grandmother was a hairdresser and had a beauty shop. I'm sure my mother would have been fine if I would have done that. But my teachers really did push me to think differently about things. And for me, I was lucky enough to be part of that first graduating class that was allowed to get hope. And for anyone that was teaching around that time, you will also remember that the state actually paid for kids to take the ACT and the SAT that year. Because obviously, if you are a child living in poverty, being able to take those tests, I mean, it's a pretty significant amount of money, for kids that are just really kind of living on the edge and families that are living on the edge. And so that is really what gave me the path. To go to college, and with Pell Grants and Hope and working my way through, I was able to graduate from Georgia Southern University. And then I went to the University of Georgia School of Law, where I did the same thing. I worked, had loans, grants, all of that stuff, and was able to kind of push my way through. And that's really where I found my calling in terms of the law. Because really the law is just another language. It's like a foreign language that nobody else knows but lawyers. And but it's a powerful language because it really is the language of justice, and how you can really stand up for people and and advocate for them. And so for me, my why is, in terms of going to law school, in terms of the career I've had for over 20 years representing individuals who, I've represented people when they really needed it. And I like to say that if I've been your lawyer before, something bad has really happened in your life and it's not good. But that's when people need help the most, right? And so really the why is all of those women, my mama, my community, my teachers, really wanting to give back to them through public service, because they are the people who enabled me to live the life that I have now, to have a couple of great kids who are whip smart and good people. And, have a son that's about to go off to college. So it's one of those things where having that opportunity, and really it was because of the women of the state, teachers, the people who took an interest in me and who really pushed me. And so that's why I'm running for AG too. It's an extension of that, which is, I've been representing individuals for over 20 years and fighting for them. And it's a natural extension, just to take that to the state level and really fight for the people of the state of Georgia, because I think that's what's been missing. I think the Attorney General's office has been used for partisan reasons and kind of pushing partisan policies. And I think the current Attorney General really does just view himself as the governor's lawyer. But that's not who the Attorney General is. The Attorney General really is an independent constitutional officer who does represent and advise the executive and agencies, but at the same time really does have an obligation to stand up for, fight, and protect the people of this state.
Thank you. And I know as educators, we're usually locked in. We understand a lot about the State Board of Education, how that works, the state superintendent. We understand why, as an educator, that office is very important to us.
Right.
For our members who may not understand what the Attorney General does and why that office is so important to us as educators, can you kind of give us why should we care about who is our Attorney General?
So there are a lot of reasons. I mean, the power and the breadth of what the Attorney General does is pretty significant. I mean, I know teachers probably are most familiar when there are kind of professional licensure issues, discipline issues. The Attorney General is almost seen as like the prosecutor, I guess, in those instances. But what you have to look at is it's also the person, because when you're talking about a government position versus just individuals fighting with each other, is that it should be about doing the right thing. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be completely adversarial. Like if there is a mix-up or a mess-up, like maybe something's coming up that someone has a criminal record, but they really don't, that kind of thing. And so really the Attorney General's office can be a partner in a lot of ways with teachers that are dealing with some issues that could be really administrative mistakes in a lot of times, or work with them to kind of come out with a way for them to kind of overcome it so that they can keep teaching. But even apart from that, the Attorney General really is supposed to interpret the law too for the various agencies and tell them what they can and cannot do. And I know one of the bigger issues for y'all is the waiver issue in terms of how the State Board of Education can come in and basically just waive requirements of law, right? The legislature has said, this is the law, but State Board of Education comes in and says, well, we're going to offer waivers to school systems that say they don't have to follow the law. Well, I don't think you can do that. I think that there's a real problem under our Constitution there. But when you don't have an Attorney General who's paying attention to that stuff, and there's not a side, right? It shouldn't be adversarial. It's not like, school board, I'm here for you, or, it really is, is this right? Should this be happening? And that's kind of the place you should start from when you're talking about an Attorney General who really is supposed to be the chief legal officer, the chief lawyer for everybody. And we just don't have that right now. So it's that kind of stuff, when they're, people say, this can't be right? Like when you say that to yourself, is this legal? Like, those are the kind of questions that the Attorney General really should step in and try to resolve for people, because they impact people's lives. I mean, y'all know that on the ground in terms of these various school systems, in terms of teachers, everyday quality of life and being able to teach, whether you're talking about waivers doing with class size or any of the other myriad of things that the waivers have been issued for. So those are the kind of things that you never think that an attorney general could get involved with that really do impact educators every day. And that's just a couple of things. I mean, you would not believe just how significant and important the attorney general's office could be in the lives of teachers in this state.
Okay, I want Grace has joined us. So, hey, Grace, welcome. For those of you who don't know her, Grace Khan is our campaigns and elections chief. I'm going to give her that chief title for campaigns and elections. Grace, feel free to jump in if you have a question. I'm sure you do.
Are we directing questions at our wonderful candidate for attorney?
Yes,
general?
yes.
So I would love for you to talk more about the disciplinary actions, how the AG's office is involved in that with educators.
So I know one of the things specifically in terms of what the AG's office has been doing in terms of policy that has negatively impacted teachers is that, so maybe it's better to think about like Law and Order, right? The episodes of Law and Order where you've got a prosecutor and you've got the defense. And remember, the prosecutor is supposed to hand over all the evidence they have. It's kind of discovery so that the defense knows what they're dealing with. And it's important not just for the defense to know this for purposes of getting their case ready, but it's also important to know what you're dealing with, right? Like, is this a legitimate issue that I need to be telling my client, you need to settle this, or we need to go ahead and deal with this issue? Or is it something that's just, it really is just a mess up, like somebody misentered something into the system, whatever it is, and the problem right now is the attorney general, and this hasn't always been the case in the office, but under this attorney general, they are refusing to turn over information that really is about the case, right? And even and we're not talking about exculpatory, and by that I mean stuff that will say that the person is not guilty, but any evidence they have, like the witness statements, or who the identity of the people are that have made the complaint, all of the facts, right? Kind of the very specific facts of the case. They're not turning it over. And so what you have is you have teachers who are represented by lawyers who are going through this process for months. I mean, even years, right? Especially during COVID, who have no idea what the state has in terms of it. And do they have a good case? Do they have a bad case? And so attorneys are like, we can't even give our clients appropriate advice. And so the really bad part of that is when you are under one of these investigations, you're flagged in the system and you can't get another job to teach. So you literally are going through this whole process, and maybe it's a mess up. So at the end of it, when you finally get to find out what they have, and you're like, well, wait a second, that's not right. And then maybe the case gets dismissed. You've literally spent 2 years of your life unable to teach, to make money. I mean, it's a pretty significant issue in terms of due process and, your constitutional rights, as a teacher, as a person. And so it's just that little tweaks, right? That's not the legislature doing that. That's not a judge. That's literally a policy decision that is made by the Attorney General's office. And so that's the kind of thing that really, it does impact. And look, disciplinary actions, they can be very serious. I don't want to say that they're not, right? But I think that under our Constitution, whether we're talking about at the federal level or at the state level, one of the biggest things that we always have to pay very close attention to is due process, especially when you're talking about taking away somebody's ability to make a living, to take care of their family and themselves.
Well, we've got a case file, and our attorney, Mike McGonigal, does a great job representing many of our educators before the Professional Standards Commission. One that stands out to me is a teacher who literally forgot to pay for a 75-cent soda can, was faced with losing her teaching certificate because of that. I mean, there needs to be fairness in the process, and I
Right.
appreciate
And
it.
look, it is about notice, right? That's all that's what due process is. Due process doesn't mean people get off. Due process doesn't mean that we don't actually resolve things. What due process is that we all have the facts, we all have the evidence, and then we have to make our case. That's all that is. And if you have a teacher who needs to be disciplined and needs to lose their license, then okay, then let the state prove it. Let the Attorney General's office prove it. Let the teacher and that teacher's attorney be able to defend that action. But at least then you make sure that you are protecting the constitutional rights of the teacher, and you're not doing anything that really does hurt people. Even if you're just kind of willy-nilly not paying attention and the case just goes along and there's nothing to it. I mean, again, this really does impact in a person's ability just to even, keep their job a lot of times.
Senator Jordan, you grew up in rural Georgia and you're representing one of the wealthiest areas of Georgia. So if elected to AG, how do you plan to bridge the disconnect between those two worlds?
I think I might be the only person who can, right? Have you ever heard of a girl from Dodge County who represents the people on West Paces Ferry? I mean, that is all because of the public education system in Georgia. I give absolute full credit for that, right? Public education system from kindergarten through law school. And so it's one of those things where, look, having lived in every part of this state and having been, dirt poor and not, right? It's one of those things where you really can, and I don't want to say walk in somebody's shoes, but like at least be empathetic to people's situations and try to understand whatever their journey is or their lived experience and not just reject it out of hand. And I think part of the issue is that we segregate each other in so many different ways, right? Gender, race, ethnicity, where you live, all of those things. And really we are a lot more alike than we are different. And if we would just listen to each other sometimes and kind of have open hearts and open minds, we could do a lot more. We could do a lot more in this state together than being so divided like we are right now.
Senator Jordan, I wanted to ask you, because you have been very successful as a senator. You have been one of those people that has been fighting for your beliefs and for the people that live in your district. Why did you make the decision to run for Attorney General?
I think one of the biggest things is, and let me give you an example. Things kept happening where the Attorney General's office was not doing their job and was not fighting for the people of the state. And so there was a facility in my district that was emitting a carcinogen that causes breast cancer. There was a school next door. I lived and worked in the area. The state Environmental Protection Division kept it hidden. Finally, a journalist broke the story, and this was in the summer of 2019, and all heck broke loose, right? People were scared and upset, and it was a super big deal. And after doing the research, I realized the only person who really could do something was the Attorney General, like on behalf of the people, right? To go in there and say, this is a public nuisance, this is a problem, this is a danger, and we need to shut this down, at least to try to figure out what's going on here. And so I reached out to the Attorney General, requested his help, asked him to help me, to help my family, to help the people I represented. And I really did think it was a nonpartisan thing, because the people that it impacted really the most were on the banks of the Chattahoochee, who are very wealthy people who tend not to be Democrats, right? They're not exactly, you know, voting Democrat in the Democratic primary every year. So I thought it was something that we could really come together on to protect people and make people the priority. And not only did he decline, but he effectively went behind closed doors and entered into a secret kind of consent agreement that came out later that allowed them to keep operating, even though they hadn't even gone through the permitting process yet for certain equipment. And so it was at that point that I got mad, because I was like, you know what? This isn't even ideological anymore. This isn't even like, you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, we disagree philosophically on things. This really was about my family. It was personal. And, you know, you get to a point where, you know, I really just got mad. And I said, if he's not going to do his job, then by God, I will. And that's when I decided to run. So that's that Dodge County coming out in me, right?
Well, you talked about protecting the people and advocating for the people. Can you tell us about your fight against Senate Bill 202?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Senate Bill 202 in terms of the voting. So that was the bill that was passed right after the 2020 election, basically in response to the fact that Democrats won several seats.
Oh no, we lost Senator Jordan. Hopefully she'll be back in just a second. That's technology. We've all had that happen. Some of us, I'm sure Carly, Sharon, y'all had that happen in the middle of a lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here she is.
Okay, yeah, she's back.
All right, I'm back. Sorry.
Yes, welcome back. We said that's happened to all of us doing virtual
computer
instruction.
down, I was like, all right, where's my phone? So look, it was the voting rights fight. I mean, it was significant because 202 really was based on lies that were told about things that didn't happen in the election. And really, it just kind of added on to people's mistrust of the election and the results, when in fact, it was probably one of the best run elections that we've had ever in terms of my memory, especially during a presidential. So it was done specifically for partisan reasons. And you know, what we're telling people is just be really careful. Go early vote October 17th. If you don't have to do an absentee ballot, don't do an absentee ballot. Go early, because then if there's a problem, you know there's a problem, and you can, you know, we can get it fixed one way or the other and make sure that your vote gets counted, because it's just, there's too much at stake on the ballot this year.
Okay. And so you mentioned, and I'm going to mention this real quick so everybody knows, October 11th, that is next Tuesday. If you are not registered to vote, October 11th is the deadline. If you are not registered to vote, go register this evening. Go do it now. You can do it online. And Grace, I'm sure, is about to put the link in the comments for where you can go register to vote.
And Lisa, just to is that people need to check by that same link, even if they are registered, to make sure it's the correct address. Because if you've moved to a different county, you will not be able to vote if you have not changed your registration by October 11th. That's something that a lot of folks don't realize, and it catches a lot of people every year.
Okay, thank you. Carly?
I'm actually looking at what Grace, because I've recently moved and I had to change my driver's license because I was so afraid I wouldn't be able to vote because my driver's license would be wrong. And I didn't realize I needed to go online and change my address somewhere there as well. So tell me again what I need to do. Because
So you can go to,
I need to do it.
Well, it depends. Now, sometimes it lets you check a box with DDS and it'll change the address for you, but sometimes it won't do that. So it's really important just to check. So you go to that link that was just put in the chat. And what you can do is you can look up your profile, your registration, and it'll show you what your registered address is. If it's your new one, great, no problem. If it's the old one, it's really quick just to change the address on the website electronically. It takes 2 seconds.
Okay. I feel better now. I'm glad I didn't miss the deadline.
Yes.
I know.
And as Grace mentioned, we can see a sample ballot. Senator Jordan, I know that you have to leave us at 7. And so I want to give you every opportunity to speak to our members and those that are viewing, because we do need a friend of public education in the Attorney General's office. We need a friend of public education in every office. So if you would like to take this time to speak to our members and why it is so important that they do vote on November 8th and that they vote for Jen Jordan for Attorney General.
Yeah, look, I think it's been a rough few years, right? Especially for educators. I mean, we're still dealing with issues from the pandemic, and then the attacks on even content. What you can teach, what you can't, people showing up at these school board meetings yelling, being empowered really to come after teachers. And that's just untenable. I mean, that's why we have so many that are leaving the profession. It's hard to recruit teachers. Look, we need to up teacher pay. We need to start treating teachers like the professionals they are. Because look, what y'all do, I mean, and COVID really should have exposed this in terms of that y'all are providing mental health services. You're providing, health care to kids. You're, social services, all the things. I mean, schools are feeding kids. And y'all really, that's not your responsibility. But because of the lack of funding and the failure of the state to properly fund at the local level, it's really fallen on the shoulders of a lot of you. And so, look, my big thing is you will always have an advocate in the AG's office. You'll always have an advocate no matter where I am. I owe too much in my life to the public educators of this state. And I know that the future of our state hinges on all of y'all because of the work you do. And so, please vote for me. My name is Jen Jordan, spelled Jordan. I know it's kind of wacky, but one way to remember is, I'm running for Attorney General, like General. I know it's a little cheesy, but that will be the one thing that you remember. So thank you for giving me the time. I always love talking to teachers, and I look forward to seeing y'all all across the state.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And we will be asking you back. I am sure we'll be happy to have you back anytime. And we will be voting. And I know I'm going to vote early. That's what we are encouraging everyone to do. Early voting begins October 17th, and we want our members to go out and vote on that day. And we want you to vote for Jen Jordan for Attorney General. Thank you for being with us this evening.
See y'all soon.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got some more time. Joe, as we always do on Facebook Live, catch us up on what we need to know, what's happening.
Gosh, there's a lot happening this summer, Lisa. Obviously, campaigns.
No, whoa. Hold on. I know legislators still think it's summer, but summer's over for us.
Okay, you're right. I guess it's kind of fallish outside. Sorry, I've been in a cage. We've got a number of study committees going on that are a high priority for us. Want to let you know, and I'll post in a second, a way for you to give us your feedback that we can carry to legislators. But there are 3 primary legislative study committees going on. One of them is on education funding in general. This is a study committee that's now met twice. We know they'll meet at least one more time. I think they might meet more than that, but they've said one of their goals is to consider a rewrite of the Quality Basic Education QBE formula. We'll see if that's a big task. I don't know if they'll get that far. but they're also entertaining comments on spending priorities. Where should we be spending money? Or not spending money? Where should we increase spending? Where should we decrease it? So it's a great opportunity for GAE and for individual educators through GAE or representing themselves to share with this committee their thoughts on how education is funding by the state level, at the local level, and the federal level, and then what spending priorities should be. A couple things that we're advocating for example, Georgia is one of only 5 states in the country that does not supply additional funding to school districts which have a high number of students who live in poverty. That would be a wonderful addition to the QBE formula. So, but we really welcome your comments on that. And again, I'll post a jot form in just a second that allows you to comment on that. The second one is another study committee. This one specifically that GAE requested, and that's on retirement benefits for our ESP members. Those ESPs that participate in what's called the public school employees retirement system. This is usually going to be bus drivers, cafeteria workers, mechanics, custodial staff, folks of that nature. The benefits for that are poor, frankly. They're poor. I mean, the pay's poor too. And here we have people that have been at the front lines, especially during COVID, and interact with our children every day and are an integral part of their education. So we asked for a study committee to be created on ways that we can improve the benefits for ESPs. There's been one study committee on that. Lisa testified brilliantly at that committee. One of the things she asked for, since the meeting was held at 8 a.m., why don't we have a hearing when actually the people most impacted by this study committee could show up and share their own stories. And the committee chairman, Randy Robertson from around the Columbus, Georgia area, agreed to that. And we expect to have a date sometime soon to announce for a hearing that probably will be in the Columbus area, but on a Saturday, when we hope to have ESPs that are affected by this and participants in the PSERS program to show up and share their stories. But we have worked diligently to try to represent and find ways to improve the station and benefits and pay for our ESP members, and we will continue to do so. The third study committee is one that was just announced recently, and that's a House study committee on literacy education. There's a meeting coming up next week of the study committee. Frankly, I'm a little disappointed by the composition of the study committee. To be frank, it's bureaucrats and legislators. We had asked for consideration of a number of our members who specialize in literacy education, but they will not be a formal part of the study committee. That doesn't mean, however, that they can't be testify at these study committees on literacy. GAE will be there to testify and offer direction and comment on that too. So that's coming up as well. So there's 3 study committees going on right now that are important. We're frankly 100 days, that may seem like forever, but the General Assembly convenes in the second Monday of January, and that's a whole lot closer than it seems like. So we are beginning, well, we've been, but we're beginning to strategize and begin our planning and reach out to legislators, talk about issues like school district waivers. We expect a big push from vouchers again this year. There may be another round of cultural issues that are brought up. Who knows what will come up this year? There's always a surprise too. It's also the first year of 2-year sessions. A session technically is 2 years. So this is the first year of a 2-year session starting, which means all bills will be brand new. Nothing carries over. We may see TRS, teacher retirement system bills this year that may have an impact on our retirement benefits for educators that participate in TRS. So it's going to be a crazy year for us, and we're trying to get prepared and get our arms around it as best as possible. But again, I'll post those jot forms in a second. We absolutely need and welcome your comments. Please take a moment to fill out the ones on education funding and on ESP retirement benefits.
Great. And I just have to say one thing, Joe.
Yes.
You said that the PSERS is a poor retirement system. It doesn't even reach the level of poor. I mean, it's abysmal.
Well, to give you an idea, they increased the benefit a quarter of a dollar this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's woefully inadequate. Yes, absolutely.
If and I have in my notes from that meeting that the average pension check that one of our retired educators in this system receives is $300 a month. You can't buy groceries for a single person for $300 a month, let alone pay rent or have gas to go somewhere, to go to the grocery store. So it is one of those things that GAE is working on, and it is one of our priorities because all educators deserve a retirement that allows them to live with dignity. So I'm going to put out the plea, complete the survey, complete the job form, but also be ready. When we send the action alert and say that this next hearing has been set, we need you ready to jump in with us. And I was elected by the members to speak for you, and I will do that anywhere, anytime. That is what I chose to do. But when Lisa Morgan, the kindergarten teacher, is talking about what's happening to our custodians, it doesn't have quite the impact that it does when Mr. Slaughter, who has been a custodian for 20 years, talks about what he's experiencing. When Ms. Hunter, who has been in the cafeteria for 20 years, or Ms. Smith, that's driven the bus for 25 years, they need to hear the stories from those people who are living that every day. So we would ask our members who are in those categories to be ready to go. I would ask the other certified to do like me and go and support these members and show that we do, as certified educators, support everyone having a retirement that allows them to live with dignity. And I'm going to get off my soapbox there about that. And Grace, tell us about what's happening with campaigns and elections. And I know we are going to have a big event coming up right before the election to make sure all our members vote.
So I am so proud to give a shout out to the 20 GAE member organizers who have been making phone calls on behalf of GAE to other members and to voters to get out the vote for GAE supported candidates, Friends of Education. So just a little rundown. The organizers have met about 3 times at this point, including a training. They're about 3 to 4 hour shifts, and they have already knocked out 26,000 calls, which is
Okay.
which is insane.
I wasn't expecting that number that big. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
We have called 26,000 people in
Correct.
support of our candidates. Okay.
And so, and that's just dials though. So of course, actual conversations, ideally we want to have a 10% contact rate. So that means the caller picks up the phone, or the person that we're calling picks up the phone, and we actually have the conversation about the candidate and getting out the vote for them. And in that case, we have had about 2,600 actual conversations with members and with parents. Like I said, our organizing team, I'm so proud of them. I have to say, I don't think there's anybody, any other group out there that's this effective, but I challenge somebody to step to me with a group that's that effective. We have made calls for Jen Jordan for Attorney General. We have made calls for B. Wynn for Secretary of State, William Bodie for Labor Commissioner, Charlie Bailey for Lieutenant Governor, and of course, Stacey Abrams for Governor. We also dipped into our state ledge races. We have a couple of competitive state house races that we called for. Michelle Au, who's running in a competitive district in, I believe it's Sandy Springs area. And we did about 7,000 calls for her last Saturday. So our members are crushing it. Also wanted to hype up the GOTV Rally. So on Sunday, November 6th, from 3 to 6 p.m., GAE will be hosting a Get Out the Vote rally. As y'all know, in 2020, we did this also for the federal runoffs in 2021. Those were virtual. This one will be a hybrid in-person and virtual. It's in-person downtown Switch Yards, which is off of Ted Turner Drive. And then we want to accommodate folks who are unable to attend in person, but we still encourage everybody to try to come in person because we're going to have some special guests. I'm not going to give away who. But the point is to, of course, get out the vote, make sure our members are ready to go by Election Day, as well as honor and acknowledge the GOTV organizers who have been doing such a great job on behalf of GAE. If you'd like to RSVP for that, which I highly encourage you to do, you can go to gae.org/campaigns and scroll down to upcoming events, and you will see the RSVP link for the Educators Get Out the Vote rally on November 6th. I think that's it, but Lisa, am I forgetting anything? I go fast.
What was the time of the Get Out the Vote rally? I heard you say November 6th, but what's the time again?
Yeah, Sunday, November 6th from 3 to 6. So
3 to 6?
Correct. We're trying to give everybody an opportunity to, go do their church thing, maybe go do their lunch thing, and then come to this. Hors d'oeuvres and drinks will be served. Family is certainly welcome. This is only for GAE members. And so if you have family that you want to bring, children, significant others, aunties, uncles, welcome to that. Just make sure that they write RSVP. We're hoping to at least have, over 100, if not 150 people there. The space is so beautiful that it would be a shame to have such a low turnout. And then, like I said, we're trying to make sure that we can lock down guests to really make it worth your while.
Okay, so Grace, here's what I heard. November 6th, 3 to 6 p.m. It's in Atlanta off Ted Turner Boulevard. And it is Ted Turner Drive. And this is our Get Out the Vote rally. So are we going to be doing something while we are there to make sure people are going to vote?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a wonderful tool that's allowing us to reach other members as well as your friends and family that you're connected with their phone. So we'll be able to do a little bit of an action on that day. And I anticipate that folks will have a good time with this little tool because you're going to be talking to people that you already know.
Okay. So that leads me to my next thing. Everybody needs to bring, obviously, their cell phone. And if your phone is like me, like mine, you probably need to bring your charger and your cord. So if you have to do, like I will have to do 10 minutes in and plug your phone up. Okay.
Yep, that's a good call.
Okay, great. So I will be there. I'm sure the rest of us here will be there, and we need as many of our members as possible. That's why we want you to go ahead and write that date down. Go ahead and go to Campaigns and Elections and RSVP for our Get Out the Vote rally on November 6th, because once you RSVP, it's going to send you reminders. It's going to send you the address, and it will help you make sure you are there. So
I have a question,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
I'm not familiar with this area. Where is there and how is the parking going to work? Because I know Atlanta is notorious for
Yes.
parking issues.
Great question. So we've got that worked out for you. Parking will be taken care of. It is paid, but we will have that taken care of. And there will be a specific lot that attendees will be directed to. And it is downtown. So it's like, if you're familiar with downtown Atlanta, there's like the Georgia State area, like the Rialto. So it's a little near that, but we'll have proper instructions for you. You'll get those in Mobilize if you sign up. So you shouldn't have any worries about making sure you're able to get there. And we'll also have people directing traffic too. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
And Lisa won't be directing traffic because she'll get you lost. Okay, so we have a couple more minutes to talk about what's going on. And so
Lisa, I
Joe,
was wondering if between the two of us, we might just give a brief update on WEP GPO. There was a terrific presentation from Jeff Hubbard, who's GAE's NEA director, on that today. This is, first of all, if you're not involved with GAE, you're retired and you're pre-retired, near retirement, or retired, you should be. It's an amazing group. But there's been some progress on this situation. You may know that if you're in a, well, Lisa, you can probably explain it better than I am, but we've got a number of members who work in districts where their school system does not participate in Social Security. They lose Social Security. They don't, so their benefits that they receive are diminished, even for spousal benefits that they're entitled to get. You can probably explain the problem better than I can, but there has been movement recently. It's an important priority, and we're hoping to see movement. It'll probably be a call to action fairly soon from us on that as well. But I know you were in DC recently, and I thought maybe it'd be a good idea for an update.
okay, so here's what I will, and I am looking, I'm looking on YouTube right now to put the link in the comments for those of you who may not know what we're talking about when we say GPO WEP. GPO stands for Government Pension Offset, and WEP stands for Windfall Elimination Provision. If you retire with a government pension, then GPO applies to you. And if you, whether you work in a Social Security system or not, GPO is going to apply to you. The windfall elimination provision is what applies if you have a government pension, which we do, and that's what impacts your survivor benefits. And the video I am putting in that is a wonderful explanation about this. It is from it says TRS, and this is actually the Texas retirement system. But school districts in Texas do not participate like some of our school districts in Georgia do not. So this is an excellent explainer. When Jeff Hubbard, our NEA director, and I were in DC recently, don't ask me what day it is, one of the things that we were lobbying on is GPO WEP. There are now 300 signers, co-sponsors in the House. There are 40 co-sponsors in the Senate. Senator Raphael Warnock is one of those 40 co-signers in the Senate. So yes, our senator who committed to working on this when he was running 2 years ago is, and we need to keep him there so he can keep working on this. And we will be, GAE had an NBI this summer. There will be a task force that will be there from NEA working on this, and we will have our GAE members in each congressional district who will continue to work on this. And someone put in the comments, if you have a second job paying Social Security, exactly. If you have a second job paying Social Security, those benefits that you have paid in, that you have earned, will be cut.
But if I had a job for 10 years, maybe in the private sector and paid Social Security, I won't see that money.
Right. Or it will be greatly reduced.
Okay, yeah, but if I were working in the private sector and weren't a public servant, as educators are, I'm not penalized that way. It's crazy.
Right. I call it punished for doing the right thing.
It sounds like GPO whack.
Carly, you always come up with those for us. So that is something we are working on. And Joe, since we brought that up, our GAE retired is going to have on October 22nd. I'm not sure what time it is, but look for the information coming soon, or it may be there already. I'll see if I can find it.
I think it's 9 to 10:30.
It's 9 to 10:30. Okay, thank you, Joe. And I'll see if I can find the link to register. So they are going to have an information session to help us all fully and completely understand the issues so that we can all write our congressman, write our 2 senators, and make sure that they are going to support educators and educators' families on these issues. Even if you are in a state, you may have family members in other, if this doesn't impact you, you probably have a family member that it does impact. I mean, I've seen data that 1% of the people in this country are NEA members. Well, then chances are, if 1%, chances are, even if you aren't directly impacted, you know someone who is. So I will see if we can find that and stick it in the chat as well. So we haven't talked about this in a while, but Carly, sorry, I'm going to depress us. Yeah, I am. Y'all, COVID hasn't gone anywhere. So I know our schools are acting like it hasn't, but COVID is still there, and we are still seeing children being hospitalized every week. So this is just my short little thing to say, please, if you have not gotten your new booster that is specifically for Omicron, it is available, and that's one way you can keep yourself safe and healthy. So I'll end that advertisement there. So Grace, you gave us great news. You got us hyped up. So do you have that graphic close at hand so we can share with everyone who our endorsed candidates are? I think that would be something we should pop up there real quick and let everybody see all of the candidates that GAE has endorsed who will be our friends of public education in statewide races. If you have your No magazine, I've been hearing from members today when I was visiting schools in Bainbridge, they're like, oh yeah, I just got that in the mail on the weekend. We want you to look in your No magazine. It has our statewide endorsements as well as all of the state House and state Senate endorsements. And Grace, are you still looking?
Yes.
Okay.
While she's looking, we talked about early voting.
Mhm.
Can we just tell everybody what maybe they need to do to early vote? Maybe I should rephrase that. Could you just tell me what I need to do to early vote?
Okay, so you need to go on your county elections website and find out where your early voting location is in your county. If you're in a more rural county, there may only be one early voting place. I happen to live in Gwinnett. There's always 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 early voting places. Go to the early voting location that is, if you've only got one, you're gonna have to go to that one. And you go in with your driver's license. It's just like you're going to vote on a regular day, but you're going early. You do have a little form to fill out that says you're requesting an absentee ballot, but that means literally you're requesting an in-person ballot that day at early voting. You fill the form out, they look you up, they do the little card.
Oh, that you stick in the machine.
Stick in the machine, yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to say ATM card, but that's not what it is. And then you go vote just like it's election day.
Okay.
It's just you're voting early, and they say it is it's called early absentee, in-person absentee. in Gwinnett. I love it because when you go to their website, they tell you how long the line is at each one of the early voting places, which is wonderful. So the last 3 times I have early voted, I have gone to 3 different locations because I've always picked the one that has the shortest line, and it's real time. It updates every 5 minutes. The smaller rural counties probably won't have that, but they will have at least one early voting site. You need to check the hours too, because some places early voting is only like during business hours, 9 to 5. Other counties, early voting is extended hours. Some counties have Saturday early voting. And I think, Grace, they have to have one Saturday, right? Okay, so they have to have one Saturday.
2 Saturdays now.
Is it 2 Saturdays now?
Yeah, and I think one Sunday and one optional Sunday.
Okay.
And they should be open what I think the law calls normal business hours, which could vary based on the county election board, but generally 8 to 5 at least, but in many places 7 to 7. And then of course on election day, 7 to 7. Early voting in person will end the Friday before the election. But I personally recommend, if you can, voting in person early. They have made the absentee ballot by mail process very tricky and complicated. And I have more confidence in you going and having your vote counted if you go in person early or on election day.
Yeah. And I will say, I talked to one of our retired members who said she goes to early voting, and I was concerned. I'm like, well, what if you have to stand in line? And she's like, oh no, I don't have to stand in line. I'm a senior citizen and I get to cut to the front of the line. So for our retired members, go ahead and go to early voting. They're going to let y'all cut to the front of the line. And those of us that aren't there yet will not complain. And Grace, I found that, Grace, tell me if I'm sharing the right thing here, because I want to show this and let us yell out who we are supporting. Is that the right one, Grace? Okay, great. All right. So here are, so I don't miss somebody as I'm reminding everybody who our endorsed candidates are statewide. For U.S. Senate, we have endorsed Raphael Warnock. He was our endorsed candidate in 2020 when he won this seat. For governor, we have endorsed Stacey Abrams. And if I am not mistaken, I think every single time Stacey Abrams has run for something, she has been endorsed by GAE because she has always been a champion for public education. For lieutenant governor, we have endorsed Charlie Bailey, and I know he has been an endorsed candidate by GAE before. Then Senator Jen Jordan for attorney general, and Representative B. Wynn for Secretary of State are on here right next to each other. And that's kind of good because they both have a record with GAE that they have been Legislator of the Year. They have been our GAE Friend of Public Education. They have both been fierce in their battles to ensure that the legislature is passing laws that benefit not only our educators, but our students. State School Superintendent Richard Woods is our endorsed candidate for that position. And while we may not always agree with Superintendent Woods on everything, we do know that we can work with him and that we are coming to the table to discuss things as educators and with a focus on our students and what's actually happening in the classroom. And then finally, Representative William Bodie is our endorsed candidate for Labor Commissioner. And Representative Bodie is one of those legislators who has also been a fierce advocate for public education. His mother was actually an educator and a GAE member, and he has not been on the education committee, but those bills that have come before the committees he has served on that have impacted education, he has worked hand in hand with GAE on those. So that's who they are. I didn't forget anybody because I read from left to right across the screen. And we will put this graphic in the comments for those of you who are watching us on Facebook this evening. I'm looking.
And Lisa, that will be mailed to every GAE
Yes.
member as well.
Okay, so if you are a GAE member, look for this in the mail coming soon to your home. And I'm going to say share, 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 share. Your friends, your family members, your next door neighbor. As educators, your neighbors know you, your family members, the people you go to church with, the people in your civic clubs, the people you see in the grocery store. When they know you're an educator, they know that we care about our students and that we want the best for our students. So share with them who these endorsed candidates are and that they are the candidates who will support and protect public education for our students, educators, and for our future students. This isn't just about the students we're teaching now. This is about our students that we're going to be teaching 5 or 10 years from now, that we have a public education system that provides them what they need. So, Grace, you got something else?
No, just, and I don't want to keep anybody longer than we need to be here, just that if you go to gae.org/campaigns, you'll see all the links that we posted today, including the link to the My Voter page to check your registration, view your sample ballot. You'll see early vote dates available, or early vote dates, so that you can mark them in your calendar and go ahead and make a plan to vote. You'll see the slate. You'll also see the RSVP for Geotv Rally on November 6th. So please go to gae.org/campaigns. And if you have any gripes about the website, then that's just too bad. You're going to have to maybe post on it. I spent a really long time on it and I'm done with it now.
If they have problems with the website, just go ahead and send your problems to Lisa, because that's what everybody else does.
There you go.
So that's fine. Thank you for joining us this evening. And I did put the campaigns in the chat again. I can't figure out how to post the graphic in the comments. So I will go when we are finished and do a post on the GAE President's page with this graphic, because I'm hoping some of you will want to download it and share it with on your own pages. Share it, feel free, share it on Instagram, share it with everyone you know. So thank you all. Our next Facebook Live will be, I'm looking at a calendar, October 19th, 6:30, and we look forward to seeing all of you then. Oh, somebody figured out how to post it. Joe, good job.
Nice work, Joe.
Nice work, Joe.
Even the blind squirrel finds an acorn.
You all have a good evening, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.